Commander Hyunwoo adjusted his sleek silver uniform as he stood on the bridge of the Void Hunter, watching the stars drift past through the massive viewport. The Alterian warship was a masterpiece of advanced engineering, its hull gleaming with quantum-enhanced armor that could deflect energy weapons from across the galaxy. For 3 months they had been patrolling the outer territories, maintaining peace in the name of the Galactic Council. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency. Dozens of holographic displays showed star charts, energy readings, and communication channels from across their sector. The crew moved with the practiced grace of warriors who had served together for years, their pale blue skin and elongated features marking them as one of the galaxy's most respected military forces. Lieutenant Nari sat at the primary sensor station, her 6 fingers dancing across controls that would have seemed like magic to primitive species. Her large dark eyes suddenly widened as an alert chimed through the bridge. "Commander," she called out, her melodic voice cutting through the ambient. "Toys? I'm picking up something unusual on long-range sensors. Unknown vessel bearing 27 Mark IV. Hyunwoo strode over to her station, his boots clicking against the polished metal floor. The other bridge officers turned to watch, curiosity evident on their faces. Encounters with unknown ships were rare in this sector, and usually meant either pirates or lost civilian vessels. "Details, Lieutenant," he commanded, leaning over her shoulder to study the sensor readings. "Approximately 2 kilometers in length, sir, drifting near the edge of what our star charts identify as human space." Nari's fingers moved across her console, bringing up a 3-dimensional image of the detected vessel. "Configuration unknown, but the energy signature suggests it's of human origin." A ripple of quiet laughter passed through the bridge crew. Ensign Jae-ho, barely out of the academy, couldn't suppress a grin. "Humans, sir? What are they doing this far from their home system?" "Probably got lost," chuckled Chief Petty Officer Min-sok from the weapons station. "I heard they still use chemical rockets for some of their ships." Commander Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. The humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 87 years ago, making them the youngest species in the Galactic Council. Their technology was considered charmingly primitive by most standards, while the Alterians had been exploring the stars for over 3,000 years. Humans were still learning to navigate beyond their own solar system. "Bring us to within scanning range," Hyunwoo ordered, "but maintain a safe distance. Even primitive species can be unpredictable." The Void Hunter changed course smoothly, its advanced engines producing no vibration or sound. Through the viewport, the human vessel gradually came into view. It was massive by human standards, but seemed almost quaint compared to Alterian warships. The hull was dark gray, angular, and appeared to be made of simple metal alloys. Beginning full-spectrum analysis. "Now, sir," Nari announced, her hands moving across the scanning controls. Multiple sensor arrays focused on the human ship, penetrating its hull with invisible beams that could analyze everything from molecular composition to energy flow patterns. "What do we have?" Hyunwoo asked, settling into his command chair. "Exactly what we expected, sir," reported Tactical Officer Sungmin. "Crude fusion drives, basic kinetic weapons, and what appears to be simple titanium steel armor plating. The weapon systems look like oversized projectile launchers." "Projectiles?" Ensign Jae-ho laughed. "They're still throwing rocks at each other?" "Sophisticated rocks," Min-seok corrected with amusement. "But rocks nonetheless. Our plasma cannons could cut through that armor like tissue paper." Hyunwoo nodded, making mental notes for his report to Fleet Command. The Galactic Council maintained detailed files on all member species' military capabilities, both for defensive planning and to ensure no one became a threat to galactic peace. "Sir?" Nari's voice carried a note of confusion that made Hyunwoo look up sharply. "I'm detecting some anomalies in the deeper scan layers. The ship's mass readings don't match its apparent size." "To explain," Hyunwoo said, rising from his chair and moving to her station. "Well, sir, the external dimensions suggest the vessel should mass approximately 400,000 tons, but our gravitometric sensors are reading nearly twice that." She frowned at her displays, running the calculations again. "Either our sensors are malfunctioning, or there's something inside that ship we can't see." "Sensor malfunction," Hyunwoo dismissed with a wave of his hand. "Human construction techniques," are probably just denser than we anticipated. Continue the scan. I want a complete tactical assessment for our intelligence division. But even as he spoke, something nagged at the back of his mind. The Alterian sensor array was the most advanced in the galaxy, capable of detecting a single molecule of foreign matter at 1,000 kilometers. Malfunctions were virtually impossible. Nari's console chimed again as the scanning array penetrated deeper into the human vessel's structure. Layer by layer, the sensors peeled back the ship's secrets like removing the layers of an onion. What they found defied their understanding of human technology. Hidden beneath what appeared to be simple armor plating were materials that shouldn't exist in human space. Composite alloys that seemed to absorb and redirect energy rather than simply deflect it. Crystalline structures that pulse with their own internal power. Most disturbing of all, empty spaces in the ship's design that their sensors couldn't explain. "Commander," the ship's AI announced suddenly, its calm mechanical voice echoing through the bridge. The artificial intelligence was one of the most sophisticated in the Alterian fleet, capable of processing millions of calculations per second. Preliminary analysis suggests this vessel is significantly more complex than initial readings indicated. "Define complex," Hyunwoo ordered, a chill running down his spine. The internal structure contains redundant systems beyond normal safety protocols. The armor composition includes materials not found in our databases of human technology. Most concerning, sir, there appear to be entire sections of the ship that are invisible to our standard scanning methods. The bridge fell silent except for the quiet hum of electronics. Every officer stared at the holographic display showing the human vessel, which suddenly seemed far less primitive than it had moments before. "That's impossible," whispered Ensign Jeho. "Humans don't have stealth technology." But as they watched, their most advanced sensors continued to reveal layers of complexity that challenged everything they thought they knew about Earth's newest spacefaring species. The scanning results grew more disturbing with each passing minute. Commander Hyunwoo watched the holographic display update in real time as their sensors peeled away layer after layer of the human vessel's secrets. What had initially appeared to be a crude metal shell was revealing itself to be something far more sophisticated and terrifying. "This can't be right," muttered Nari, her 6 fingers dancing frantically across her console as new data flooded in. Sweat beaded on her blue forehead despite the bridge's perfect climate control. The internal structure shows redundant systems within redundant systems. Every critical component has backups, and those backups have their own backups. She pulled up a 3-dimensional cutaway view of the human ship's interior. The bridge crew gathered around her station, their earlier amusement replaced by growing unease. The vessel's internal design looked like a maze of interconnected systems, each one capable of operating independently if the others failed. "Look at this." Nari pointed to a section near the ship's bow. Their navigation system has 7 separate computer cores. 7. Even if 6 of them were completely destroyed, they could still plot courses across the galaxy. Chief Engineer Dongmin pushed through the crowd, his tall frame towering over the other officers. His specialty was analyzing alien technology, and he had studied the propulsion systems of dozens of species. But what he saw on the display made his mouth go. "Dright, look at this armor composition," he said, his normally steady voice carrying a tremor. "It's not just passive protection like we thought. It's reactive. The molecular structure actually strengthens under stress." He manipulated the display, zooming in on the ship's outer hull. The armor appeared to be made of interlocking crystalline plates that could shift and adapt based on incoming threats. When struck by energy weapons, the crystals would absorb the impact and redistribute the force across the entire structure. "See these microfractures?" Dongmin traced his finger along the hologram. "They're not damage, they're designed features. The armor becomes stronger every time it's hit, learning from each attack and adapting its molecular structure to resist similar damage in the future." Commander Hyunwoo felt a cold knot forming in his stomach. This wasn't primitive human technology. This was something that challenged the fundamental assumptions the Galactic Council had made about Earth's military capabilities. "What about the crew complement?" he asked, hoping for at least one piece of normal data. "That's the strangest part, sir," Nari replied, pulling up the bioscanner readings. Bioscanners detect approximately 30,000 life signs, but the ship appears to be running on full automation. How do you fit 30,000 beings on a ship that size and still have room for all these systems? The number sent shockwaves through the bridge crew. 30,000 was larger than the population of some Alterian colonies. Most warships in the galaxy operated with crews of a few hundred at most, relying on artificial intelligence and automated systems for routine operations. "Maybe their humans are smaller than we thought," suggested Ensign J-Ho hopefully. "Negative," Dongmin shook his head. "Our databases show humans are roughly the same size as Alterians. There's no way to fit that many beings in conventional crew quarters." The mystery deepened as their scans penetrated the ship's central sections. What they discovered defied every principle of spacecraft design the Alterians had learned over 3 millennia of space travel. The human vessel wasn't just a battleship. It was a completely self-contained military ecosystem floating through the void. "Are you seeing this?" Nari's voice rose in disbelief as new sections of the ship revealed themselves. Manufacturing, bays, hydroponics gardens, medical facilities, and even recreational areas. They've packed them into spaces that should have been impossible to fit. The holographic display showed vast internal chambers that seemed to violate the laws of physics. Massive hydroponic farms stretched across areas that external scans suggested should be solid armor. Manufacturing facilities capable of building everything from small weapons to replacement hull sections occupied spaces that appeared empty from the outside. "It's like they built a city inside a warship," whispered Tactical Officer Sung-min. "Or maybe they built a warship around a city." But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. Chief Engineer Dong-min had been analyzing the power signatures emanating from the human vessel's core, and what he found made his hands shake as he input the calculations. "Sir," Dong-min called out, his voice tight with barely controlled fear, "their power core readings are off the charts. Whatever they're using for fuel, it's generating more energy than our entire fleet combined." "That's impossible," Hyunwoo snapped, his composure finally cracking. "Humans barely understand fusion technology. Our intelligence reports show they're still using primitive reactor designs that we abandoned centuries ago." "I've run the calculations 3 times, sir," Dongmin insisted. "The energy output is equivalent to a small star. Either their reactor technology is far more advanced than we believed, or they're using some form of power generation we've never encountered." The implications were staggering. Energy output determined everything in space warfare: weapon strength, shield power, speed, and endurance. If humans could generate that much power from a single ship, their combat capabilities would be beyond anything the galaxy had seen. "Commander," the ship's AI interrupted suddenly, its mechanical voice carrying an unusual note of uncertainty. "I am detecting weapons systems that do not conform to known physics. Several of their armaments appear to manipulate space-time itself." The bridge fell completely silent. Every officer stared at the AI's projection node, hoping they had misheard. Space-time manipulation was theoretical technology that existed only in the most advanced scientific papers. Even the ancient Vorthon Empire, which had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years before mysteriously vanishing, had never achieved such capabilities. "Explain," Hyunwoo ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Multiple weapon systems aboard the human vessel generate gravitational anomalies consistent with localized space-time distortion," the AI reported. "The energy signatures suggest they can create artificial gravity wells, temporal displacement fields, and possibly even microscopic black holes." Ensign J-Ho sank into his chair, his face pale with shock. "They can make black holes. The technology appears to be miniaturized and weaponized," the AI continued. "Based on the power requirements and field generators I'm detecting, they could theoretically tear holes in space itself." Commander Hyunwoo stared at the human vessel on the main display, watching it drift silently through space like a sleeping giant. Everything they thought they knew about humanity had been wrong. These weren't primitive barbarians stumbling through their first steps into space. They were something far more dangerous, a species that had apparently mastered technologies the rest of the galaxy considered impossible. The question that terrified him most wasn't what this ship could do. It was how many more ships like it were hidden in human space, waiting and watching with weapons that could bend reality itself. Commander Hyun-woo's patience had reached its limit. The strange readings and impossible technologies were making his crew nervous, and he needed answers. The human ship continued to drift silently before them, giving no indication that it even knew they were there. "AI, access their computer systems," Hyun-woo ordered, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere on the bridge. "I want to know everything about this ship and its capabilities." "Attempting to breach their data networks now, Commander," the ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. The Alterian AI was one of the most sophisticated in the galaxy, capable of breaking through virtually any security system within minutes. It had successfully penetrated the databases of dozens of species, from simple trade networks to military installations. Human computer systems, primitive as they were supposed to be, should have posed no challenge at all. "Breach successful," the AI announced after only 30 seconds, accessing their central database now. But what the Alterian AI found in the human databases shattered every assumption they had about Earth's newest spacefaring species. The first files that downloaded contained military records, battle reports, and tactical analyses, stretching back not decades but millennia. "Commander," the AI reported, its mechanical voice carrying an unusual note of what almost sounded like surprise, "I have accessed their military historical archives. The data is extensive." "How extensive?" Hyun-woo asked, though he was already dreading the answer. "The records span approximately 12,000 years of continuous warfare, sir. The files contain detailed accounts of conflicts, ranging from small tribal skirmishes to planetary bombardments." The main holographic display suddenly filled with an overwhelming cascade of information. Battle records, tactical analyses, weapon development reports, and strategic planning documents flowed past in an endless stream. The sheer volume of data was staggering, more military history than most species accumulated in their entire existence. "This can't be right," breathed Lieutenant Nari, staring at the flood of information. "No species fights for 12,000 years straight. According to their records, humans have been in a state of near constant warfare since they developed organized civilization," the AI continued. "The conflicts evolved from simple hand-to-hand combat to intercontinental missile strikes, then to orbital bombardments, and finally to fleet actions across multiple star systems." Chief Engineer Dong Min pulled up one of the older files, his eyes widening as he read the contents. "Listen to this. The 100 Years' War between their European kingdoms. They fought for an entire century over territorial disputes, developing new weapons and tactics the entire time." "That's nothing." Ensign Jeho called out from another console. "Look at this, World War II. They had a global conflict that lasted 6 years and killed over 50 million beings, and that was just one war out of hundreds." The bridge crew began exploring the database, each discovery more shocking than the last. These weren't the simple conflicts the Alterians had expected from a primitive species. The humans had been perfecting the art of warfare with a dedication that bordered on obsession. "According to their records," the AI continued, "this vessel represents 500 years of continuous refinement in space-based warfare. It has been tested against opponents who knew every weakness and constantly adapted their tactics." Commander Hyun-woo felt his blood turn cold. Testing against opponents who knew every weakness meant the humans had been fighting other humans, beings who understood their technology, their strategies, and their limitations better than any alien enemy ever could. Nari pulled up specific battle records, her hands trembling as she navigated through the files. "Look at this, the Battle of Europa. They fought a 3-month engagement in the asteroid belt using weapons that could crack moons. And that was 200 years ago." The holographic display showed a tactical map of Jupiter's moon system, with dozens of human fleets maneuvering through the asteroid belt. Weapon fire that could shatter celestial bodies lit up the darkness as 2 human factions fought for control of mining operations. "The casualty reports," Nari whispered. "Over 2 million dead in a single engagement, and they were fighting their own species." "The Siege of Titan," Dongmin read from another file, his voice growing more horrified with each word. A 5-year blockade where both sides developed new technologies just to break each other's defenses. They created weapons during the battle that were more advanced than anything we have in our entire fleet. The tactical data showed human engineers working frantically during active combat, designing new ship configurations, weapon systems, and defensive measures in real time. Each side pushed the other to greater heights of technological innovation through sheer necessity. "Look at this progression," Tactical Officer Sung Min called out. "They went from chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. Most species take millennia to make that leap. It's because they never stopped fighting," the AI observed. "Warfare drove their technological development at an unprecedented rate. Every conflict forced them to innovate or face extinction, but the most chilling discovery was yet to come. As the AI delved deeper into their military classifications, it found something that made every Alterian on the bridge question everything they thought they knew about galactic power structures. "Commander," the AI announced, with what sounded like digital disbelief, "I have located the classification files for this vessel. It is not listed as a battleship, heavy cruiser, or even a frontline combat unit." "Then what is it?" Hyun-woo demanded. "According to their military designation system, this is a training cruiser, used to teach human cadets basic deep space operations and combat tactics." The bridge fell silent, except for the quiet hum of electronics. A training ship. Everything. They had discovered the impossible armor, the reality-bending weapons, the city-sized internal structure. All of it was considered basic training equipment by human standards. "If this is what they use to train their recruits," whispered Ensign Jae-ho, "what do their actual warships look like?" The AI had been running combat simulations in the background, analyzing the human vessel's capabilities against known Alterian fleet compositions. Its conclusion was devastating. "Commander," the AI announced, "based on the tactical data I have analyzed, I calculate that this single training vessel could engage our entire border fleet and achieve a 73% probability of victory." The bow number hung in the air like a death sentence. Their entire border fleet, 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and over 100 support vessels, would likely lose to what humans considered a school ship. "How is that possible?" Hyun-woo asked, though part of him already knew the answer. "Their approach to warfare is fundamentally different from ours, sir," the AI explained. "While most galactic species view conflict as an unfortunate necessity to be avoided, humans appear to view it as a natural state of existence. They have spent millennia preparing for wars that may never come, developing countermeasures for weapons that don't exist, and training for battles against enemies they haven't met." The realization hit Commander Hyun-woo like a physical blow. The Galactic Council had welcomed humanity as the newest member of their peaceful alliance, assuming they were just another species ready to leave their violent past behind. But humans hadn't abandoned warfare. They had simply moved it to the stars, and somewhere in the depths of human space, fleets of ships that made this training vessel look primitive were waiting in the darkness, crewed by beings who had been born into a culture that had never known true peace. The intensive scanning had an unintended consequence that would haunt Commander Hyun-woo for the rest of his life. Deep within the human battleship, systems that had been dormant for months suddenly detected the persistent probing of their hull. Automated security protocols, designed by human engineers who had learned to trust no one, began analyzing the scanning patterns. In the depths of the ship's core, an artificial intelligence that had been sleeping in low-power mode suddenly awakened. Warning lights flickered to life throughout the massive vessel as the AI ran through its startup sequence in milliseconds. Emergency protocols activated, crew quarters sealed, and weapon systems began their power-up procedures. "Contact, Lieutenant," Nari shouted as her console erupted in a cascade of alerts. Red warning lights bathed the bridge of the Void Hunter in an ominous glow. "The human ship is powering up." The transformation was terrifying to watch. What had appeared to be a dormant hulk drifting through space suddenly blazed with energy. Running lights traced patterns across the hull that hadn't been visible before. The ship's entire structure seemed to come alive, as if awakening from a deep sleep. All stations battle alert. Hyun-woo commanded, but even as the words left his mouth, he knew it was too late. Weapon ports that their most advanced sensors had completely missed began sliding open along the human vessel's hull. The armor plating that had seemed solid suddenly revealed itself to be a sophisticated system of interlocking panels. Massive gun barrels emerged from hidden compartments, their dark muzzles turning toward the Alterian ship with mechanical precision. Impossible, Hyun-woo breathed, staring at the tactical display. Our scans showed no active defenses. Sir, shield generators are coming online, reported Tactical Officer Sung-min, his voice rising with panic. They're surrounding the entire ship. The human vessel began to glow with an eerie blue light, as energy shields that their scans had missed entirely sprang to life. The barrier wasn't just around the ship, it was integrated into the hull itself, creating a shimmering second skin that rippled with contained power. How did we miss all of this? Demanded Chief Engineer Dongmin, frantically working at his console. These systems should have shown up on our scans. Because they were designed not to, the ship's AI responded, grimly. The humans have created technology that can hide in plain sight. Their stealth capabilities are beyond our current understanding. But the most terrifying moment came when the human ship began scanning them in return. The Void Hunter's own sensors detected the incoming probe, but couldn't defend against it. Sir, they're scanning us now, Dongmin reported, his voice tight with fear. Their sensors are penetrating our shields like they're not even there. The feeling was violation in its purest form. The Alterian shields that had protected them from pirates, asteroids, and enemy weapons for years suddenly felt like tissue paper. The human scanning beam cut through their defenses with surgical precision, mapping every system, every weakness, every vulnerability. Impossible, whispered Ensign. Jeho, our shields are quantum enhanced. Nothing should be able to penetrate them. The humans apparently didn't get that memo, Nari replied, watching her console in horror as the enemy scan continued. Then the systematic shutdown began. The Void Hunter's systems started failing one by one, but not randomly. The failures were carefully orchestrated, demonstrating a level of precision that chilled every officer on the bridge. Navigation went offline first. The stellar cartography system that had guided them across the galaxy for years suddenly displayed error messages. Their ability to plot courses or even determine their current location vanished in seconds. Navigation is down, reported the helm. Officer, his hands moving frantically across controls that no longer responded. Communications are next, announced the communications officer. All channels are being jammed. We can't contact Fleet Command. Then life support backups failed. Not the primary systems, the humans left those running, but every backup, every redundancy, every safety net that would have kept the crew alive if the main systems failed was systematically disabled. They're not trying to kill us, Dongmin realized with growing horror. They're showing us that they could kill us anytime they want. The demonstration was surgical in its precision. The humans were stripping away their defenses layer by layer, proving that the Void Hunter existed only because they chose to allow it. Every system that failed was a message. We know exactly how your ship works, and we can break it whenever we please. Unknown vessel. A voice suddenly crackled over their emergency channel, speaking perfect Alterian in a calm, measured tone. How you have scanned a Terran Defense Force training cruiser. State your intentions or be classified as hostile. The words sent ice through Hyun-woo's veins. The voice was professional, almost bored, as if dealing with alien warships was routine. But the phrase that terrified him most was training cruiser. If this monster was just a training ship, what did their actual warships look like? This is Commander Hyun-woo of the Alterian Navy, he replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. We meant no harm. We were conducting routine reconnaissance. Understood, Commander. Please stand by. The channel went silent, but the implications of that brief exchange echoed through the bridge. The human had spoken their language perfectly, with no translator needed. They had identified his ship, his rank, and probably his entire service record in the few seconds it took to establish communication. Slowly, gradually, the human ship's weapons powered down. The massive gun barrels retracted into their hidden compartments. The energy shields dimmed but didn't disappear entirely. The running lights shifted from aggressive red to neutral blue. But the message was crystal clear to every Alterian on the bridge. They weren't being spared through any weakness on humanity's part. They were being allowed to live as a demonstration of human mercy, not human limitation. "Sir," the ship's AI announced, quietly, "their weapons are still online, they're simply choosing not to use them." The Void Hunters' systems began coming back online one by one, in the exact reverse order of their failure. Navigation returned, then communications, then life support backups. The humans were showing them that they could restore their capabilities, just as easily as they had taken them away. "They're giving us our ship back," Nari observed in wonderment. "They're proving a point," Hyunwoo corrected grimly. "They want us to know that this entire encounter has been completely under their control from the beginning." As the human vessel settled back into its dormant state, the Alterian crew was left with one terrifying realization. They had just been examined, tested, and found wanting by beings who treated interstellar warfare like a casual training exercise. Retries the bridge of the void. Hunter remained eerily quiet for several minutes after the human ship's weapons powered down. "Commander," Hyunwoo stood frozen at his command station, processing what had just happened. His crew moved like people in a dream, checking systems and running diagnostics on equipment that had been casually disabled and restored by an alien intelligence. Then the main view screen flickered to life. The image that appeared showed the interior of what was clearly a human command center. The technology looked surprisingly familiar, yet subtly different from Alterian designs. Clean lines, efficient layouts, and multiple holographic displays created an atmosphere of quiet professionalism. But it was the woman who commanded attention. She appeared to be middle-aged by human standards, with short dark hair and calm brown eyes that seemed to look directly through the screen into Hyunwoo's soul. Her uniform was simple, a plain blue jacket with minimal decoration, but she wore it with the unmistakable bearing of someone accustomed to absolute authority. "I am Admiral Min-jung of the Terran Defense Force," she said, her voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that made people listen without raising the volume. "I understand you've been examining one of our vessels." The translation was perfect, but Hyunwoo noticed something that made his blood run cold. The Admiral's lips moved in sync with the Alterian words they were hearing. She was speaking their language directly, not relying on any translation system. "Admiral," Hyunwoo began, fighting to keep his voice steady, "we apologize for any intrusion. We were unaware of your ship's true capabilities." Min-jung smiled, but the expression wasn't entirely reassuring. It was the smile of someone who had heard the same excuse from dozens of different species over the years. "The TDF Harmony is a training vessel, Commander. We use it to teach our officers basic deep space tactics and system management. It's nearly 200 years old." The implications hit the Alterian crew like a physical blow. Around the bridge, officers exchanged horrified glances. If this ancient training ship could destroy their entire fleet, what could humanity's modern warships accomplish? 200 years old? Whispered Ensign Jae-ho, forgetting that the channel was still open. "That's correct," Admiral Min-jung replied pleasantly. "We've been upgrading her systems regularly, of course. Can't have our cadets learning on completely obsolete equipment, though I must say, some of our instructors prefer the older designs. They claim modern ships are too easy to operate." Chief Engineer Dong-min felt his knees go weak. Too easy to operate. The most sophisticated piece of military technology the Alterians had ever encountered was considered outdated by human standards. "Your scanning was quite thorough," the Admiral continued, leaning back in her chair with casual confidence. "Our AI estimates you now have a fairly complete picture of human military doctrine. I'm curious, what conclusions have you drawn?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Hyunwoo found himself speaking with complete honesty, as if the Admiral's calm gaze compelled the truth from him. "That we have gravely underestimated your species, Admiral. Our threat assessments were based on limited data." "A common mistake." Min-jung nodded with what seemed like genuine sympathy. "Most species assume that because we're new to space travel, we're new to warfare. The truth is, Commander, we've been perfecting the art of war for thousands of years. We simply moved our battlefield to the stars." She gestured to something off-screen, and the view screen split, to show tactical displays that made the Alterian crew gasp in recognition. They were looking at recreations of famous battles from human history, massive fleet engagements, orbital bombardments, and strategic maneuvers that demonstrated a level of military sophistication that rivaled the galaxy's oldest civilizations. The Battle of Thermopylae taught us that a small force could hold off a much larger one through superior positioning, Minjung explained casually. The campaigns of Alexander showed us the importance of rapid deployment and overwhelming force. The Second World War demonstrated the effectiveness of combined arms tactics and industrial warfare. The Admiral's calm recitation of human military achievements was more terrifying than any threat could have been. She spoke of planetary wars and genocidal conflicts the way other species discussed weather patterns. Every conflict taught us something new, she continued. Every defeat showed us our weaknesses. Every victory revealed new possibilities. By the time we reached the stars, we had already learned lessons that most species never discover. Lieutenant Nari stared at the display showing human battle formations. How many ships do you have? Enough, Minjung replied with that same unsettling smile. Though numbers aren't really the point, are they? It's how you use what you have. That matters. She leaned forward slightly, her expression becoming more serious. I'm transmitting our diplomatic contact protocols to your ship. I suggest your government use them. Humanity is very interested in peaceful relations with our galactic neighbors. The data transfer began immediately, flooding the Void Hunters' computers with detailed information about human diplomatic procedures, contact protocols, and negotiation frameworks. But embedded within the files were subtle demonstrations of human capabilities, star charts showing the locations of human colonies, economic data revealing the scale of their industrial capacity, and population figures that dwarfed most galactic civilizations. We've found that honest communication prevents most conflicts, the Admiral continued, and we really do prefer peaceful solutions. War is expensive, time-consuming, and ultimately wasteful, though we're quite good at it when necessary. The casual way she mentioned humanity's prowess in warfare sent chills through the bridge crew. This wasn't boasting or intimidation. It was simply a statement of fact, delivered with the same tone someone might use to discuss the weather. Admiral, Hyunwoo ventured, may I ask about your defensive capabilities? Our government will want to know what to expect if relations become strained. Minjung's smile widened, but her eyes remained completely serious. That's a very diplomatic way of asking if we can defend ourselves, Commander. The answer is yes, quite effectively, as a matter of fact. The transmission seemed to be ending, but Admiral Minjung delivered one final message that would haunt Hyunwoo's dreams for years to come. Oh, and Commander, you might want to update your star charts. The human fleet you're concerned about isn't stationed near this border. Our real military assets are positioned much deeper in Terran space. The ships you might encounter out here are just the patrol units. The implication was crystal clear. Everything they had seen, the impossible. Technology, the overwhelming firepower, the casual demonstration of superiority, represented humanity's border guards. Their actual military forces were hidden somewhere in the depths of human space, waiting and watching. As the Harmony powered down and resumed its dormant state, Commander Hyunwoo began composing his report to Alterian High Command. His hands shook as he typed, remembering the Admiral's calm confidence and the terrifying capabilities of what humans considered a training ship. His recommendations were simple: immediate diplomatic contact, complete revision of threat assessment protocols, and under no circumstances should anyone consider humanity an easy target. The newest members of the galactic community had just proven they were potentially the most dangerous. The report would change everything. Within weeks, every major power in the galaxy would be reassessing their military capabilities and reconsidering their expansion plans. The humans had announced their presence not with threats or demands, but with a simple demonstration of what they could do if pushed. And in the depths of space, other human ships continued their patrols, waiting patiently for the next species to make the mistake of underestimating Earth's children. The end.